Hi, welcome to 90% Knitting. This is episode 196, and I'm Lisa, your host, also known as Fibernymph on Ravelry and Instagram. Today is Thursday, April 7th, which makes it my grandson's 11th birthday today. That's craziness, but it's true. Anyway, but otherwise for the rest of us, it's probably just Thursday. Unless it's also your birthday, then happy birthday. Let's see. I have a couple of, well, actually three new people who introduced themselves on the Ravelry board, the 90% Knitting board, in the welcome thread. So hello to Susan from California, Jessica from South Carolina, and Shirley from Kentucky. So it's great to see your introductions, and if you'd like to add your own introduction, if you haven't done that yet, feel free. Otherwise, just hello. Thanks for watching if you're new or if you've been watching for a while. I'm glad you're here today and spending a little bit of your time with me. I'm going to try to keep this moving because I actually have one of my yarn helpers is coming over. She's not usually here on Thursdays, but she had to change her schedule around a little bit this week, so she will be coming probably in less than 40 minutes. So I am going to try to get through this as quickly as I can without sounding like I'm talking like a chipmunk. So anyway, I'll show you my new mug. My middle son went to visit his brother who lives in North Carolina over Easter, and this is what he brought back for me. That is North Carolina, I guess, and I guess. Why wouldn't it be? I don't know. I don't know my is that North Carolina? Now I'm suddenly thinking it's not, but it is. It says home. I pointed out to him, well, I don't live in North Carolina. He's like, yet. I'm like, yeah, I'm not really planning to move to North Carolina. But I like the mug because actually on this side, well, not because of this, but on this side, there is no icon. So when I'm looking at it this way, it just looks like a plain mug, but I like it because it's like that old-fashioned heavy diner kind of mug. I love these kind of sturdy, heavy-duty mugs. I don't know why. I've always liked diner mugs, though. So sure, I will drink from a diner mug that says home, North Carolina, because part of my heart is in North Carolina, living there. So anyway. Alrighty, let's talk about knitting. I actually have several finished objects to show you. And the first one, I'm going to start with the oldest one, which is sort of funny. You remember the rib cable? It was a scarf. I was turning it into, modifying it to be a cowl. And this was for the Thea Coleman Baby Cocktails SSK knit along that was taking place in February and March, right? I knit the thing up really fast, and I just needed to block it so that I could seam it together. And if you remember the last time I mentioned, I left it till the very last minute. And I mean the very last minute. I never even blocked it. I just decided I'm going to seam it because it was mostly a ribbed garment. It wasn't going to stay stretched open. So I thought, you know what, the heck with it. I'm not doing that. But here it is being modeled by my sheet. And it actually fits him really well. I can double it on me, but it is quite snug. So I'm not exactly sure how I will wear it, but I put it on my sheepy here just for the sake of taking pictures to put on my project page. So it's done. It is finished. I got it finished on March 31st, as I predicted I probably would. But it was done in time to count for the knit along. And that was made out of another Crafty Girls merino worsted in the 15, trying to get him to sit here, 15 seconds to curtain colorway. It's one of her Muppets colorways. And I love the colors. I liked the pattern. It was fine. It's just, it is a little bit snug. If I had a little extra yarn, I could have made it longer as a cowl. I mean, it wasn't meant to be a cowl anyway, but it would have really been a very short scarf. So it'll be fine. It's not cow weather right now anyway, so I'm not too worried about it. So yeah, I just grafted it together. Didn't bother blocking it, but it's finished. Woohoo. All right. Next project that I finished was a pair of socks, and it was the Ardmore socks. They are now done. Pretty much my basic vanilla sock pattern, you know, approximately a 5.5, 6-inch cuff, I guess. I did an afterthought heel, true afterthought heel. And they really turned out to be pretty darn matchy, quite honestly. The second heel is a little bit different than the first, only because I wasn't paying attention when I was knitting it, and I knit, I think, a couple of extra rounds before I started doing the decrease than I had done on the first sock. But honestly, when I have them on, I can't tell, so it's fine. And they're done. And this is my Bounce Base, my Fiber-Nymph Dye Works Bounce Base in the Ardmore colorway. This was the self-striping that I had dyed up for the Celtic Collaboration Club. Can't remember the yeah, that I did with Ashley from Neely's Knits a couple months ago, back in February, and they shipped in March. It was the Celtic theme. She did a variegated yarn. I did the self-striping, and so they're done. And I'm happy with them, and they'll go in my drawer because I'm not going to be dyeing that colorway up for quite a while. I mean, I guess I could use them as a sample if I dyed it up in the fall, like for my November show, but honestly, I've got socks I can use as samples. So anyway, so that was my second FO, and the other FO was something you hadn't even seen cast on. I just needed a fast project. I just needed something that I could cast on, cast off within a day or two. So I did a hat, and I used scrap yarn. This is just a plain vanilla beanie. Basically, I did about 2 rows of 2x2 ribbing at the bottom, and then the rest of it, you know, I knit the body. The only thing I did differently than I usually do, whenever I do my decreases, I do them like, you know, every so many stitches. So there's like 8 or 10 decreases going around. I just did 4, so it's kind of a square top. I'm not going to put it on because it'll totally screw up my hair. But anyway, the yarn I used, let's see. Okay, this is my yarn 2. I no longer carry this base. This was my Snuggle base that I purchased primarily for one of my very first Knitter's Choice yarn clubs that I did. This was an Aran weight, and it was an MCN. So it's a really nice, luxurious yarn. It's super squishy. I had done 3 different colorways that the club members could choose from. And this was the blue-purple one. It was called Blueberry Smoothie. This batch of yarn actually is part of 2 different balls that I had, because I had a couple that I goofed up the striping sequence on them, so I didn't send them out to the club members. So that's what these are. So this isn't even actually what the colorway was dyed up as in its originality. But I've used it for a couple of different projects now, and this used up pretty much all of it. I've got like a little bit of ball left. Probably isn't really enough to do much of anything, but it made a nice hat, and it's probably going to just go in the gift/charity hat box because it's not, I don't really wear beanies so much. I like, you know, looser fitting hats, but it was a nice palette cleanser kind of project for me. I just wanted something sort of mindless that I could knit quickly and have done. So I'm probably going to use it for the SSK charity knit along, which I'll talk a little bit more about later on. So 3 finished objects this week. That's pretty awesome. Then I also have progress on some things that I've been showing you. We'll start with Lefty. I'm still not working on this quite as much as I wish I was because I'd like to get it done, but it's making progress. I have 2 more. I didn't move the stitch marker here. Let me move my stitch marker. The reason I did not move my stitch marker was because I am behind on weaving in ends on this. I had been weaving those in as I went along, and I haven't done that the last couple of stripes. But let me get it open. I've added 2 more leaves and stripes to this since you saw it last. So I'm up to 22. I'm gunning for 30 is my goal here. And I think I just, yep, lost stitches off the end again. I think I do this every time I show this to you. Thankfully, they're pretty easy to get back on, except for this yarn over. Oh, okay, I'll fix it later. Okay, here we go. So I have 22 of these lovely brightly colored leaves and stripes. It's getting quite sizable. I kind of loosely wrapped it around myself the other day, and I mean, it's not quite long enough to end now. The pattern, I think, calls for doing 25 of them, and probably by 25 it would be, but I'm still going to try to get to 30 because I've got plenty of yarn to do that. I did move on to my next ball of natural colored yarn because I'm just using partial balls that I have left that were, partial balls that I didn't dye, because this is just my Fiber-Nymph Dye Works Bounce Base undyed that I'm using for the neutral color, the white. And then the colored stripes were from a color block kit from Knit & Color, and they are awesome, awesome colors. So yeah, I mean, it's still a fun project, but it's taking me about an hour to get through an entire, 10 rows of garter stitch and then the leaf stripe section, but it's coming along. It's in one of my Bags by Awesome Granny bags. And I'm knitting that on US 2.5s. So that is coming along nicely. Let's see, my Adelaide shawl, okay, for the unofficial Laura Ayler knit along that we've been doing and I've hardly been working on. I just cast it on, the last time you saw it, I had just cast it on and done a little bit. Then I set it aside because I said it wasn't turning out to be nearly as mindless as I thought it was going to be. For some reason, I was under the impression that it was a garter stitch shawl for the most part, and it's not at all a garter. Well, it is, but not just straight garter stitch. There's slip stitches and, basket weave patterning and brick patterning and everything that involves counting and slip stitches and everything. So anyway, I decided to work on that a little bit this week. So I picked it up. And again, I only had like this much of it done. It wasn't very far along at all. I picked it up, I started working on it, and a few rows in, I realized I totally messed it up because of how you're slipping the stitches. The yarn's always supposed to be held towards the back, the wrong side when you're slipping the stitches, but I was confused on which was the right and which was the wrong side, even though I had a stitch marker marking it. And usually when I do that, I put the stitch marker on the right side of the project. And on this one, for some reason, I had put it on the wrong side. And I think it's because in this pattern, the right side is actually more your rest row when you're doing some of the patterning. It's odd. It is not an intuitive pattern for me. Anyway, I had messed it up, plus I was knitting on US 7s. It's worsted weight, so 7s is usually a pretty decent needle size. I was not liking the fabric I was getting. It was definitely turning out to be dense because these patterns are dense. Basket weave's kind of dense. This brick pattern is dense. It's garter stitch in between the slip stitches, and I just didn't like the fabric, so I just ripped it out since I'd messed it up anyway. Yeah, I started it over. I had started over probably twice before I got it in the groove again. And then I got it okay. And everything is working out much, much better now. So I've managed to get done the first section, which is the first basket weave section. Okay, so I guess it will go this way. I'll show it to you this way. The first basket weave section. My color is so dark, it's very hard to see the patterning unless you're right up close, but I will try to show it to you. So the dark brown section is the first basket weave. Then you start incorporating your next color, which for me is taupe. Unfortunately, well, not unfortunately, I mean, I think it's going to look fine once it's done, but as I was doing it, I was realizing that some of the lighter areas in the dark brown, since it's a semi-solid, the lighter sections are actually quite similar to the color of taupe. So there's not as much contrast as I was sort of hoping for, but you can definitely see the contrast. So I did the first brick section, that's what this section is, where you're using both colors. And now I'm on to the second basket weave section. So I'm up to the third section in the shawl, which is pretty decent progress. I haven't really made any mistakes that I know of since restarting it the last time. So I feel confident that things are moving along well. The thing that I realized this morning when I was working on it, I've mainly been paying attention to the picture. Okay, here, I'll show you. It's a video podcast. I can show you pictures. I've mainly been paying attention to this picture. Okay. This is a picture of the large sized shawl. And this is basically how I am knitting mine. Okay, so where they have the green, I'm doing the dark brown. Where she's got this neutrally taupe color, I'm doing taupe. And then this dark brown in hers is where I'm going to be doing the raspberry color. Okay. However, you can either do the large size or the small size, but what I didn't realize, I somehow completely missed the fact, there was also an option for doing an accent color. But that's only shown in the small one. And I think, and you're not really going to be able to see it very well on here anyway, I don't think. If you look here in the basket, oh, there. Okay, there you can see. You can see how she's got one row of a green and then one row of, I'm not sure if it's the dark brown or if it's a black or a different color altogether. But it's an accent color. And I realized this morning that I could have done that because it's written to do that for either the small or the large. And I was just sort of ignoring everything that said use color 2 or accent color. Because I would have used the accent color in the second row. Not this one, but the second row of the bricks that I did in taupe. And I could have used the raspberry there. And that would have brought that raspberry color into the shawl sooner and a little bit more of it than what is going to be in it once I get down to that next basket weave section. I kind of wish I would have done that now. No way am I ripping it out to do that. It'll be fine as it is. But I guess that's what I get for not paying attention to patterns super well and for not reading completely before starting to knit. Either way, right now I'm happy with it because I've got it going. I won't say it's intuitive yet. It's not feeling intuitive to me, but I at least feel like I'm in a flow. I've kind of got a rhythm down with it now. So I'm much happier with it. Yeah, so that's going well. And when I ripped it out, I moved up to US 8s. I'm not doing 7s anymore. And I like the fabric a lot better than I'm getting with the US 8s. So that was another good change that I made. So, okay. What else? Oh, I cast on something new. Of course I did. This is a new bag I got. I was going to talk about it in new things, but since I'm showing it to you now, this is the Funky Chicken bag. Isn't it awesome? I saw this fabric and I have got to have that. I love chickens and I love these fabrics, the colors in this fabric of the chickens. And this is from Knitter's Nook, who is Uli, U-L-I. Uli Ross, I believe, is her name. It just says Creations by Uli. She also does these really cool, well, here's the zipper pull on her bag. You see that with like the little chainmail loops? But she makes stitch markers that way too. And she included one in my order. So here, whoopsie, here's what that looks like. Isn't it great? I don't use super dangly stitch markers all that often. Like Progress Keeper ones I will use. But this one, like I'll use them for when I'm doing shawls to mark the center stitch. That's okay. Like because on my, yeah, on the Atalaya I have one of these. That I just dropped on the floor. Here's another one. I have them all hanging on my bulletin board. But one of those little skull markers that I got at Indie Knit and Spin last November. I got a set of 5 of those, and I have the red one on there. So I like the dangly ones I'll use for like this marking the center stitch of a shawl. But if I have to use multiple stitch markers on a project, I don't use a whole bunch of dangly ones because they just get to be a little bit overwhelming for me. But I think this one is so cute. It's got a little apple charm at the bottom, and then it's got the 3 blue rings all together. It's super cute. So anyway, she makes those, but she also does bags. And I don't remember if she does like jewelry too. Something tells me she does, but don't quote me on that. Anyway, so that is where I got this bag from. And in this bag, yes, that's what I was originally going to talk about, is a new sock. Because honestly, now that I've finished the Ardmore socks, I have no socks on the needles. Well, that's not true. I've got some design project socks that have been on the needles for probably a couple years now. At least 1 year, maybe longer. but I have no semi-mindless socks on the needles, and that's what I needed. So I went to my stash back there, over there, you can't see it. I was in the mood to do a variegated sock. I know I just did the Sky Lantern, the sport weight socks. That was a variegated yarn, and those were fun. I like doing variegated socks. I love self-striping, obviously, because that's what I dye, but sometimes it's nice to change it up a bit and do a variegated. So I am using this yarn, which is Fabulous Colors. This is from Neely's Knits. Ashley, my friend Ashley. Her Super Sock Base, which is an 80/20 Superwash Merino Nylon, 400 yards, and it is in the Baby You're a Firework colorway. I think that's a Katy Perry song. I don't listen to Katy Perry, but I think I remember from the listing for this yarn in her shop that it was a Katy Perry song. So I don't know the song, but I love the yarn. Love the colors. And honestly, I mean, it does look sort of like fireworks, but it's sort of 4th of July-ish because there's blue and red and white in there. But the blue and the red comes together to make purple in places. So it's almost like a berry colorway. You know, like strawberries and blueberries and raspberries and blackberries and just berries is what it makes me think of. Anyway, so I cast on what I was planning to just do, like a 3x1 rib sock. And that's sort of what I'm doing, but I'm actually ending up doing a staggered rib, which I don't know if that's really a thing or if I just made it up. I wrote on my project page what I'm doing because it's definitely not unique enough to write it up as a pattern itself. But basically I cast on 64 stitches. These are US ones. Cast on 64 and then did 8 rounds of knit 3, purl 1. So that was my top ribbing. And then after 8 rounds, I just shifted everything and I started with knit 1, purl 1, and then I did the knit 3, purl 1 the whole way around the rest of the round, and then you end with a knit 2 because you have 2 leftover stitches. So it basically just shifts the ribbing over, and I don't know that you're going to really be able to see it that well. Can you see where that rib stitch, so it's up here and then it gets shifted over to here, so it's basically in the middle of those 3, like the 3 knits. The second knit now has the purl stitch below it, and honestly when it's not stretched out it almost looks like sort of like an hourglass, like a wavy hourglass kind of formation. I'm not sure what it'll look like when I'm wearing it, like when it's stretched out a bit more, and there's not really enough on here to even put it on my leg and see. I'm not sure. I know if I was knitting this in a semi-solid yarn or even a striped yarn, the difference would be, the patterning difference would be much, much more evident. Honestly, I didn't decide to do this patterning because I wanted it to look cool. I did it because I didn't want to be bored while I was knitting it. I wanted to knit an easy sock, but I wanted to knit something that gave me something to think about anyway. And this is just enough variation to think about. I probably am going to cast on another pair of socks in a stripy yarn, and it's probably going to be one of my West Yorkshire Spinners Bird yarns that I can just do a vanilla sock, so that I have a vanilla sock that I can carry around when I definitely need to, like movie knitting or whatever, that kind of thing. Yeah, so anyway, that's something I did not put on my, here, I need to put something on my show notes so I don't forget to tell you later. Okay, I've done that now. So anyway, yes, this is my new sock project. Obviously not very far along, but it's always, I just have to have socks on the needles at all times. At least one pair. Alrighty, so that is everything that I have worked on this week. The Wildesmeer is still languishing. The bug has not bit me to get back to that. And honestly, I'm thinking it may not for a little while. I think once I finish the Lefty, then I'll probably go back to the Wildesmeer. But since I've got Atalaya started and really going, I want to work on that. So Ville de Smear is just going to kind of sit by the wayside and marinate for a little while. But that's okay. It's all right to let your projects marinate sometimes. Nothing wrong with that. I did not at all work on the garter bias wrap, which again, you know, that's just sort of an ongoing project. It's really funny. I was looking at my project page today on Ravelry, like my main, that shows all your projects, and I went in and I hibernated 2 sweaters that I had active, like my antler cardigan and that that pullover. I don't even remember the name of it now. They'd been sitting there as if I was going to work on them, and I'm so not, because I'm not in a sweater mood. So they're officially in hibernation. So actively on my my project pages, all that I had active as projects were 4 shawls, the Atalaya, the Ville de Smear, Lefty, and the garter bias wrap. 4 shawls and 2 Afghan projects. My homespun log cabin Afghan square project, which I have not worked on any of those in a long time, and that mini granny square Afghan that I did work on recently, but you know, it's going to probably sit for a while too. So I'm thinking 2 Afghans and 4 shawls. That's all I have active. I had to cast on the socks, so I added that sock project, the firework socks. That's what I'm calling them, since the colorway name has the word firework in it. So firework socks. And you know, like that hat that I did, I had a project page for it, but it was done in 2 days. So anyway, maybe I'll do another hat. I probably will be doing another hat. And again, I'm going to talk about that in a little bit too. All right, I need to find my notes again in my camera page so I can see. All right. And surprise, I still didn't spin either. Just don't have any spinning mojo right now, but eventually I will. It'll come back. I do have projects on deck. Like I need any more. And yeah, one of them is a shawl, but there's a reason for that. And let me share it with you. I was looking, okay, let me back up a little bit. So I finished the Thea Coleman knit along for SSK. That was done March 31st. So the new one that started up was for the next designer who's going to be teaching at SSK, who I'm completely forgetting her name. Oh, darn it. All right, I'm going to look it up for you really fast because I need to. Let's see, SSK. Announcements. Okay. Mercedes Knits is now through May. That's the knit along for now through May. And that is, well, Mercedes Tarosevich. I'm probably butchering her name. Anyway, that's the knit along for the next 2 months for SSK. And like I said, I'm trying to do one project for each of these knit alongs. So I've been spending way too much time looking at her design pages, like her pattern pages, trying to find something that I want to knit. Now she has lovely patterns out. Okay, this is nothing at all a reflection on her patterns. However, a whole bunch of them are sweaters. I am not in a sweater frame of mind. I am not starting a new sweater, no matter how pretty it is. It's just not happening. A whole bunch of her patterns are brioche. I am probably the only knitter on the face of the earth who has no desire to learn how to knit brioche. I know it's a big thing right now. There's tons of Stephen West patterns out there with brioche in them that people are doing. There's other patterns. Everybody's on the brioche bus right now. And I am not. I don't know why. It's pretty. I think the way the colors show up is very pretty. And at one point in time, a couple years ago, I kind of did want to learn how to knit brioche, and then I bought a book, and then I never did. And you can do single color brioche too, which actually I think I did do a single color brioche cowl. Maybe it was a Jared Flood pattern. And it was okay. It didn't do much for me because it was single colored. My thing with brioche is the way it's knit, it's so heavy. It's like such a dense fabric. And, you know, for mittens or a hat or a cowl, I'm sure that's fine. But I'm just not there. Like to do that with a heavy duty yarn, like a worsted weight yarn or something, I don't want to do it. She's also got brioche sweater patterns and a brioche, I think there was a shawl maybe. I'm thinking, there's no way I could wear a brioche sweater. I would be dying of heat stroke. So I don't want to do sweater. I don't want to do brioche. And she's got several other patterns that aren't related to either of those things, but some of them that are smaller projects, like there's some mitts. Actually, the mitts I think were a brioche pattern, but they were cute. And I would have even been willing to give those a try. Maybe they weren't brioche, but they were some sort of very striking pattern. The pattern's not available. A bunch of her patterns were written for clubs that she designed for, and they were, exclusive to the club for a certain amount of time, and then a lot of the pattern pages say this will be published after such and such a date. Well, the date's long since gone, but the patterns aren't up there, so I can't access those patterns. Some of them were published in magazines that are long out of print, and they're not available online. So like every pattern that I thought I might do, it was an inaccessible pattern, which is sad because they're really pretty. So I don't know what I'm going to do for this one. My feeling right now is I'm just not going to do any of her patterns. Not because I don't like them, but just because none of them fit into what I want to be knitting right now. So instead, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the charity knitting cowl, because that's going on the whole entire time up through SSK. And it's preemie caps, chemo caps, and hats for the homeless. I can knit me some hats. I love knitting hats. Now, the only difference with that knit along is it's by yardage. So for every 100 yards you use knitting hats, then you get 1 extra ticket. Whereas the designer knit alongs, like you get an extra drawing ticket for doing the pattern, and if you use one of the vendor's yarns, you get, I think, 2 extra tickets. So you don't get that at all, the extra tickets for using vendor yarn, and that's okay, because I could probably make up the difference just knitting a whole lot of hats, and that's what I'm going to probably do, because I've got tons of good yarn that I could use for homeless hats, and that'll go through yarn like crazy if I actually do that. So I think that's my plan. For the rest of my SSK knitting is probably going to be charity hat knitting. I like knitting charity hats. I used to do it all the time. I've gotten away from it in the last couple of years, so this will be a good way to get back into it and earn some extra drawing tickets for SSK. So anyway, that's on deck, is these hats that I'm just going to kind of do as little palette cleanser projects here and there. However, I have 2 other projects, and the one came about as I was looking at the Mercedes patterns for the SSK, because there's one that's a little hexagon, knitted hexagon cowl. Like you knit all these little hexagons and you kind of work them together as you're knitting them, and I thought maybe I'll do that. And then I knit one. I didn't even bring it in to show you. I just grabbed some scrap yarn just to see how fast it would, and it actually didn't go very slow. I mean, it was a quick little thing. It's only this big. I think it's like 8 rounds. However, mine turned out super tiny. I would have to go up on needles, even though, like, because it's a fingering weight yarn, and I think I was using 1s. So it turned out to be almost like half the size it was supposed to be. So I would have had to go up in needles, but I couldn't bring myself to do it. I think it would have ended up needing 140 hexagons. And between all those other long-term projects I've got going right now, I just couldn't bring myself to do it. But in the meantime, I had gone through my stash and I had found yarn that would have been awesome for it. This is a skein of Leading Men Fiber Arts in their Show Stealer Base Tropical Waters colorway. Isn't it gorgeous? And then I pulled out 3 of my Fiber Nymph Dye Works semi-solid skeins that would have gone with it perfectly. There's no green in this, but I really like how this lime green looks with these. And I just had this combination sitting here for a few days, even after I decided I wasn't going to do that little hexagon cowl. I thought, because I said, I have got to make something out of this. I've got to put these yarns together in some way to do something. And so, I honestly, I just sat them back there on that shelf. And they were just sitting there, and I was looking at them. And then, suddenly, I think it was on Instagram, I saw a pattern was published. And it's by Marilyn D. I'm not, it says, it looks like Maryland, but I think it's Maryland D. I don't know. By Melanie Berg. And the pattern is called On the Spice Market. And I believe it just came out. But here's a picture of it. And it calls for using like a main color and then 6 other colors. So if you look at this little tiny picture of it, you get a better idea. If I can get it to focus. There we go. So she's got a neutral color as her main color, and then 6 other colors for these stripes, and then all of those like little brick stripes that are up there. What I'm going to do, and I've got enough yarn for it, is I'm going to use the lime green as the main color, and then I'm going to do the stripes and the bricks in these 3 yarns. So instead of 6, I will just use each of these twice, sequence them twice. Make sense? I'm almost positive I have enough yarn to do that based on the yardage required. Well, I do. I figured it out. So I've got plenty of yarn to do that. So I think that's going to be a project on the needles at some point. It's on deck. It's definitely there because I've got the yarn. I've got the pattern. It's so very rare that I have something like that paired up ahead of time. But I do, and I can't wait because I think those colors are going to just look so good together. It excites me. Color excites me, and when I can put together yarn for a project like that, it just really gets me going. All right, so where was I? Oh, I had been talking about the On the Spice Market pattern. Again, that's a pattern by Melanie Berg that was just published recently. So that's on deck. Another on deck project was one that I saw, I believe, on the Fiber Nymph Dye Works Ravelry group. You know how you can like post projects, you can connect them to groups that you're in, like when you finish a project, if you want to share it with a certain group. Well, obviously for my Fiber Nymph Dye Works group, a lot of people share projects that they've made out of my yarn, which is awesome. I love that. In fact, in that group, it would be best if you're only sharing projects that you've made from my yarn and fiber as opposed to other things, or my patterns, I guess. Anyway, whatever. I'm not really too much of a stickler about that. But I had seen that somebody had done, and I'm sorry I don't remember who, but you know who you are. Someone had done the Monster Cow. I feel like I've heard of this before. It's not a super recent pattern, but it's super cute. So this is what it looks like. I'm talking about chevrons. I love chevrons. You know me and my chevrons. So that's what the Monster Cow looks like. But she had done it with a set of my worsted weight inversibles. I thought that is a fabulous way to do that. So hers, you know, one side of it was the one inversible. The other side was the inverse, okay? It looked so cool. I loved it. So I'm going to do one. Because I think it'll be a really great project to have as a sample for shows, and I'm going to do it out of the black and undyed, and that should be really striking, actually. I can't wait. This is going to be awesome. So I'm going to cast that on pretty soon too, I think, just so that I have something different in bigger yarn too. Although the Adelaide, that's worsted weight yarn. So anyway, so that's on deck. And then the other thing that is on deck is I need to make 2 hot water bottle cozies for my daughter's 2 other roommates. I did the Nyan Cat socks for her one roommate, and the other 2 want hot water bottle cozies like I had made her for her birthday last year. The one wants a penguin, a teal penguin, and the other wants a pig, a pink pig. So I'm not exactly sure about the animal parts of it. I mean, I'm going to be creative and turn them into those animals in some way, shape, or form, and it'll be fine. I can do that. I'm crafty enough, but it was just so funny that they were like requesting these specific animals, and the girl who wants the penguin, she's like, I want it to have flippers. And I'm like, okay, I'll do my best. So we'll see how that goes. I have the yarn already for them. I just have to knit them, and honestly, they will not take very much time. I just need to do them. So anyway, those are all on deck projects. Yeah, just need to knit. And honestly, it's funny because I didn't record last week, I guess. I feel like it's been almost 2 weeks. Maybe it has been 2 weeks. Um, but honestly, I just haven't had a whole lot of knitting time. And last week, I had virtually nothing that I would have been able to show you because I hadn't worked on very much. And I was really busy, and I just thought, you know what, I'll just wait. And so in the matter of the week since then, I've managed to get a lot done. So that's pretty cool. I love it whenever you have those productivity spikes. And it doesn't seem like you're doing a whole lot, but then suddenly you have a lot to show for it. That's awesome. Okay, so that's all the on deck stuff. I will remind you about the unofficial Laura Ayler knit along that Melissa from the Meltran Designs podcast and I are co-hosting. Unofficial just in the fact that there's really no start date, no firm end date. We just have one thread on each of our groups, where you can talk about your projects, show your progress, ask questions about patterns, show your finished object pattern or pictures. And we're just going to, keep that going for as long as there seems to be interest. Originally, I had said, well, we probably won't do prizes. Then I said, well, maybe we'll do prizes just from the chatter thread and everything. Well, what I decided today is I am going to do prize drawings, but I'm going to do one prize drawing for every segment of the pattern that I finish. That's how I'm going to do that. And I'll just draw it from that chatter thread since there's just the one thread. So since I've already finished 2 sections, the first basket weave section and the first brick section are now done, I did a random drawing for 2 different prizes. And my prizes are going to be patterns. I'm not going to send out yarn for these or anything. But basically any pattern that is downloadable through Ravelry up to a $6 value. If you win, just let me know which pattern you want and I will gift it to you. So the first one I drew, and the funny thing is, I'm posting in that thread too. So if I pick one of my posts, obviously I'm not going to be giving myself a pattern. I'll just keep drawing. So I did 2 drawings, and the first one was number 4, who is Perfect Circle, and that is Michelle. She's from the UK. So Michelle, please PM me with the name of whatever pattern on Ravelry up to $6 that you would like gifted to you, and I'll send that out to you. And the other one was post number 3. So I had number 4 and number 3. There were only, I think, 33 posts. Well, there was actually some more, but the last few were mine, so I didn't even bother to put those numbers in. But I just thought it was funny, 2 through 33, and I got number 4 and number 3. Number 3 was Betty for Fiber, and that's Betty from Ohio. So Betty, congratulations. Please PM me and let me know what pattern you would like up to $6, and I will gift that to you through Ravelry. So every time I finish a section of my Atalaya shawl, I will do another drawing for a pattern. And the same post can't win twice. I'll still draw from 2 through whatever, but post number 4, post number 3, those are out of the running now. But you can continue to post as much as you want in that thread and get patterns. So. Okay, what else? Oh, I have a new official knit along that is going to be starting on May 1st. It'll run just through the month of May, May 1st through May 31st, and it's going to be called the Mini Mayhem Cal, since it's the month of May. My thought on that was, everybody is doing these minis. Well, not everybody, but so many people are doing projects with minis. And that usually yields mini projects, other than like the Afghans, which end up being huge, or things like that. But what I want to do is do this cal, and you can use your mini skeins, or you can use leftovers or whatever. You don't have to buy mini skeins specifically to do this. But basically, for the sake of this knit along, your qualifying project needs to use 100 yards or less of yarn. That will qualify it as a mini project. Okay, mini. I don't know why I did that. Mini project. And for the sake of this cal, individual Afghan squares, like if you're doing granny squares like I'm doing, or if you're doing the like the little mitered square blankets, the cozy memory blankets, whatever, as long as you're doing the small squares that take less than 100 yards, each of those squares will count as an individual mini project. If you're doing, this could be anything little that counts as its own individual item, even if it's going to ultimately be part of a larger project. Does that make sense? So what you're going to do is you're going to get 1 point per project. So each Afghan square would be 1 point. Each, if you do a pair of baby socks that takes less than 100 yards of yarn, that's a point. A Christmas tree ornament, or a bird of happiness, or whatever. Anything you're using up, minis or scraps of yarn or whatever, that's going to earn you 1 point. If your project uses Fiber Nymph Dyeworks yarn, or yarn that you've spun out of My Fiber, that will earn you an extra point. But that has to be like the whole mini skein, or the mini square that you make has to be Fiber Nymph Dyeworks yarn, not just like a little bit of it. The whole mini project has to be out of the Fiber Nymph Dyeworks yarn. That'll get you an extra point. So you get 2 points for that project. Do you understand how that's going to work? All right. And again, I have no idea why I'm doing points, because the last time I did points, it just made everything complicated. And I haven't even figured out why these points are going to be applicable. I haven't completely thought this through. But this is how we're going to do this, so just stay tuned. Basically, what I'm going to do is, as of May 1st, there will be a thread started for you to post a finished object, like your finished objects. Start one post, and then every time you finish something, add a picture to that post. Edit it, add your project, your next picture. So everybody will just have one post for all of their mini projects for the entire month. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. And I will figure out more about what I'm going to do with those points. It may end up being like that Drew Carey show where the points don't matter or whatever. I don't know. Somehow it'll count. Anyway, I just wanted to let you know that that's coming up. So, yeah. Okay. More next week. New things. Oh, for Pete's sake, I did not bring it in here. Hang on, I'll be right back. I need to grab something. Okay, I'm back. You already saw my one new thing, which was this project bag from Knitter's Nook. So that one you've already seen. The other new thing I got was this. This is Wool Tribe, the 2016 festival companion to the Edinburgh Yarn or Edinburgh Fiber Festival or Edinburgh Yarn Festival. Now I can't remember what it was called. Edinburgh Yarn Company, Edinburgh Yarn Fest, which was, I think, 2 weekends ago maybe now. Basically, they created this magazine to go along with the festival. So it had information about the vendors, but it's also got patterns in it, and it's got some articles in it, and they're very cool, the articles. And the pictures, the photography is fantastic. There's all kinds of information about sheep, a sheep spotter's guide to Scotland. There was information about the local area. So like here's an article about Stockbridge. The 3 C's, craft, coffee, and cake. So where you could go if you were going to be there and everything. And basically they had these available. You could buy them ahead of time. I think you could buy them at the festival. And they were available to anybody, whether you were going to the festival or not. And this was basically my way of fantasizing about being in Scotland for this festival, because I would have loved to have been there. But the book itself is just awesome. I'm still going through it. I'm kind of savoring it, but there's some wonderful patterns in here, very elaborate patterns actually, and just beautiful, beautiful photography and pictures of sheep. So anyway, I don't know if any of these are still available. They may be. I'm not 100% sure, but that was a new thing for me, and it was fun. New podcasts. The only new podcast to me that I listened to or watched in the last couple weeks was the Packy Knits podcast with Heidi. And that was a lot of fun. She's very cheerful, very upbeat. It was a nice podcast to watch. So I would recommend checking that one out. If you just want to listen to a very happy person. So it's always that. I mean, most podcasters are cheerful and happy. I mean, there's not too many who are like, I hate my life. Yeah. We don't do that as podcasters, do we? Not usually, but no. She was a lot of fun to watch. And otherwise, I'm just trying to keep up with my some of my regular podcasts that I watch, which it's a full-time job, and obviously I can't keep up with them all, but I do my best. I try to get Dramatic Knits in there. I try to get Yarngasm in there. Diane Brown, I love her podcasts. She's the one who does she does project bags, and I'm totally blanking on what her project bags are called, what her company is called. And I don't even remember what her podcast is. Oh my gosh, this is like terrible because I did not look any of this up ahead of time. But I was watching her this morning, actually. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I love watching Diane. I don't know if she even knows who I am, but regardless, I love watching her because she has just such a calm demeanor. Yeah, Diane, it just says Diane Brown. I don't know if she has a... Okay, stop talking, Diane. I don't want to finish watching you right now. I don't know. I'm sorry. I'll look it up and I'll put it in the show notes, which I promise I will try to do. I've been horrible with show notes lately. But anyway, she's one. As soon as she puts one up, I love to watch her because she's just pleasant and smiley and just very relaxing for me to listen to. I like podcasts like that, especially first thing in the morning. So anyway, those are some that I always try to watch. Fat Squirrel, Amy had a new one up this morning. I watched that. So anyway, I was talking about new podcasts. Those aren't new, those last ones. But anyway, I think that's everything in the 90% section. Let's get on to 10%. Let's see, shenanigans for my last week. Last weekend, this is what I wanted, well, this is what I added my note to. I went to the Banff Mountain Film Festival this past weekend. It does a world tour. The festival itself is in Banff in Canada in October, I believe, every year. And it's a film festival, so there's like all these films screened and everything there. And then like award-winning ones get taken on the road. They do this world tour of the festival, and it comes to Pittsburgh every year. I mean, obviously they don't bring all the movies. There was 8 that played on Sunday, and some of them were quite short. Others were, edits for the tour, just instead of the full-length movies and stuff. But it's the first time I got to go to it, and it was a lot of fun. It's all about the films chronicle different sports. Usually like extreme sports. Like there was women's speed ascent. These 2 women who were trying to break a record rock climbing up the face of this crazy flat rock. El Cap. I don't know my rocks. But yeah, it was a really short film. It was like 4 minutes long, but it just chronicled their attempts, and they broke the record for doing that. There was one on rafting through the Grand Canyon on the Colorado River. There was one about these 4 guys who took time off after they graduated college, and they took 8 Mustang horses from the Mexico border, like the very southern part of the United States at the Mexican border, up to Canada. That was really cool. That was the longest film, and that was even an edited version, but that was a really cool film to watch. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. They were all really, really good, and it was a lot of fun to watch them. So anyway, that was what I did on Sunday. It was a good time. Let's see, what else? I have been reading. I finished Why Not Me by Mindy Kaling. It was really fun. I liked that book. I told you that last time. She's really good at reading her own books. She's funny, and, the books were good. I started listening to Edison, A Life of Invention by Paul Israel, which is sort of not totally up my alley. The only reason I was listening to it was because it was already in my Audible library, because I think years ago my ex had been buying Audible books, and they were mostly all on like technology and invention and things like that. And it's not that I don't like that stuff, it's just not something that I would usually choose to listen to, but I was in the mood for just listening to something different. So I started listening to that, and it was actually pretty good at the beginning because it was about Edison's early life, and that was kind of interesting. But then it got into like his heavy duty inventing years, and you know, you think of Edison and the light bulb, but you know, he mainly was into telegraphy, like telegraph operating, and he did a bunch of inventions for that industry. And once it really got into that and talking about a whole lot of electrical oriented stuff, it's like right over my head because I don't know that. I don't have a good point of reference for that kind of stuff. So I kind of quit listening. I might go back to it at some point. I might not. But then I started listening to another book called Lab Girl by Hope Jahren. She is a geobiologist, and I saw this book mentioned. It was just published this week, actually. And I saw it mentioned on Facebook on Cheryl Strayed's Facebook page. If you know who Cheryl Strayed is, she did Wild and Dear Sugar. She does the Dear Sugar column thing, which I read a while ago, last year, I guess. I still have not gotten through Wild. I just can't. Haven't gotten past the really depressing parts of that yet. But she gave this glowing review to Lab Girl, and so I looked that up, and that sounded really interesting, and I'm loving this book. Hope reads her book herself. She has a very subdued, quiet voice, so it's probably not a book I want to listen to if I'm tired, but it's been a good book to listen to while I'm working. And it's just talking about her love of how she came to love science and being in the lab, and her early life and growing up, and her father was a scientist, and you know, she talks in depth about trees. I mean, that's her main focus, like studying trees and history and like all kinds of cool stuff. And like, I'm not a scientist and I'm not super scientific minded, but like I have more of a point of reference for that, like biology and chemistry. Like the language is familiar to me just because of other things I've been exposed to. So I can listen to the more technical aspects of this story. But the thing is, even though she's talking about her technical lab experiences and everything, she writes very beautifully. It's just sometimes very poignant, very, I'm trying to think of good words to describe her. You would never know that I used to work as a writer when I can't even come up with the right words. Just, it's beautiful. Basically, her thoughts and her reflections and things, you know, the way she compares and sees life, it's wonderful. I'm really enjoying it. So if you have any interest at all in somebody who's very interested in, you know, nature and trees and their lives and their history, you know, and finding things out about them, it's a very interesting book. And there's a lot of interpersonal stuff and how she is, why she believes she is the way she is as a person and how that relates to all of this other stuff. It's a very cool book. So I'm enjoying that. And that, again, is called Lab Girl by Hope Jahren. What else? I have a question for y'all. Have you guys ever seen these tea bags? It's called Tiba, and this is Anise Herbal Drink. I can't find these anywhere. Bill has a box of these at his house, and every time I go there and I want to drink tea, these are the ones I drink because it's a nice, mild flavor. It's not super anisey or strong licorice flavored. But I'm kind of, you know, I'm rationing them because he's only got the one box. He said he bought it like at the Strip District in, I think, a Mediterranean oriented, not a Mediterranean, a Middle Eastern shop there at some point. I don't know. I've never seen that particular store down there. I don't go there all that often. But anyway, I can't find these tea bags anywhere, and I would love to get some. So like the one side is written like that. The other side is mostly written in some sort of Middle Eastern script. There is a web address on here, but it's defunct. Like I looked at it and it's actually somebody's blog now who's, I think, a funeral director. So it was original www.alsalam.mills. So alsalammills.com. That's not for these tea bags anymore. So I don't even know if these are still made. He might have had these for a really long time. Who knows? But I would love to find them, and maybe they're just not available in this country, or I don't know. But if you're somebody who's a really big tea fanatic and you go to tea shops, because I don't, and you've ever seen these and you can hook me up, I would be happy to pay you for a box of these and to ship them to me, and for the tea. But I love these, so I thought I'd just put a call out for that. If I can't find them, that's fine. I've bought a couple of different licorice teas that I don't like. They're super sweet or super strong, and that's not what this is. I really like this one. Anyway, other than that, 16 days until vacation, people. 16 days. I have so much to do between now and then, but that's okay, because then I get to go on vacation for a week to a warm tropical location that I will talk about a little bit more probably next time I record. Okay, that's everything for the main part of the show. I do have shop news. I'm going to pause so that I can bring stuff over, because there will be an update on Friday. That would be tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern. And, oh, it's 7 p.m. Eastern, yeah. I don't know why I was thinking at 4 o'clock tomorrow, but it's not. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. I hope that's what I have actually on the shop page. Let me just double check that. Oh, no, I have 4 p.m. Eastern on the shop page. Okay, let me do that over. It's going to be at 4 p.m. since that's what I've had advertised on the shop page. I don't know why I have 7 p.m. written in my show notes. The shop update will be tomorrow, Friday, April 8th at 4 p.m. Eastern. Jeez, oh man, let me fix that. Okay, but I will talk about that a little bit more in just a minute as soon as I get the yarn over here to show you. If you're not sticking around for that, then I will see you next week. And if you are, hang on. Okay, I'm back. Last home stretch here. I feel like I've had to stop and start this thing several times today. Sorry about that. Anyway, shop news. First item of business in shop news is the first quarter Fiber-Nymph Dye Works finished object drawing closed on March 30th. So we're now in the second quarter. There's a new thread up for that. I was a few days tardy in getting that up, but it's up there now. So the first one was closed, and I did do the random number generator for that. There were 57 posts of finished objects for the first quarter. First post was mine, so 2 through 57, and the winner was number 57. How odd is that? The drawing I did before, it was like 3 and 4, and this was like the very last one. So that's awesome. That hardly ever happens. So post number 57 was Allison, who is a Texas yarn, and she had knit a pair of socks out of the Blown Glass colorway on Bounce. Blown Glass was my December, I think my December Minis of the Month striping colorway that I eventually did on full skein. So she knit a pair of socks and they look great. So congratulations, Allison. You've won a $25 gift certificate to my shop. So when you hear that you've won, please PM me and let me know, and I will get you your gift certificate, your code, it's a coupon code worth $25. Sorry, for my shop. So yay, congratulations. So again, remember, anything that you finish, it doesn't even have to be started this quarter, but it does need to be finished this quarter. That is knit out of Fiber-Nymph Dye Works yarn, or spun out of Fiber-Nymph Dye Works fiber, or fiber that you spun into yarn and then knit into something. Any 3 of those count. Just put a finished object picture up when you're done. Please list what yarn, colorway, the yarn information, in there so that we know. Yeah, and enter the drawing. And I will do another drawing at the end of June, so for the second quarter. So you've got a few months. Let's see. Ever since I podcasted last, most of my time has been taken up dyeing for the Sock Blank Club. The first shipment of that is going to go out not next week, but the following week, the week before I leave for vacation, basically. And also I have a big wholesale order that I need to ship out before I go on vacation. And I've been dyeing for shop updates because I'm trying to dye ahead. Like, I'm going to have a shop update tomorrow. I'm already dyeing for next week's shop update because there's going to be another one next week on Saturday, April 16th at 10 a.m. Eastern. And then before I leave on vacation, I want to have everything dyed for the first May update, which is probably going to be Friday, May 6th. So yeah, I'm trying to get a whole lot of dyeing done before I leave for a week. And it's going well, miraculously. Like, I don't feel rushed. I don't feel pressured. I've got this scheduling thing going. So anyway, but I do have an update tomorrow, Friday the 8th at 4 p.m. Eastern. I'm sorry if I confused you earlier, but it will be 4 p.m. Eastern, and I want to show you everything that I have here for that. It is a lot of self-striping sock yarn. There are some sock blanks, and there are some minis. And I think that's it for this week. Okay, so let's start with the self-striping sock yarn, shall we? Okay. In honor of my upcoming vacation, I did my Bahamian colorway. I'm not going to the Bahamas, but you know, tropical minded is basically what's going on here. So this is Bahamian. This is one of my older colorways. I have it on Bounce and on Bedazzled. And if I hold it back here, you get the colors a little bit more truly. It's just lovely blues and greens, those tropical colors. 5 striping colorway. It's a mirrored striping, so it goes one way and then it goes back the other way and then like that. I love this colorway. It's been one of my favorites ever since I first came up with it years ago. That was like in the very first year. It's funny. I got to just take a second and tell you this. I took time yesterday to go back through all of my old dye records, like dating back from when I first started. I'd like to do that every once in a while because I'm in my 6th year, and that's a lot of colorways. I've done hundreds of colorways, not just striping colorways, but lots of them, you know, just hundreds of colorways over the years, and it's so much fun to see when I first did certain ones. It's like, wow, have I been doing that one that long? And it's fun. Anyway, that's one of my oldest ones though, and it was always a pretty popular one. So. Okay, a new colorway this week is actually based off of those. Well, you can only kind of see 2 of them here, but remember those skeins of yarn that I showed you? The 3 bounce ones in the green, the lime green, sapphire blue, and aqua shock blue. And then I was pairing them with the Lediman Fiber Arts skein in Tropical Waters to do that on the Spice Market shawl. That's what I'm going to do. But when I pulled those 3 semi-solids out, see, that's the joy of being a dyer. I can shop my own yarn like if I really need stuff, because all my semi-solids are here, so I can just go there and shop. It's fun. It's a perk of being a dyer. Anyway, when I pulled those 3 colors out, I was immediately like, this needs to be a colorway all its own, let alone what I wanted to do with it. So I put those 3 colors together, and this is what they have become. And I'm actually calling this Tropical Mindset. So it's got to be something tropical because it's just those colors. Anyway, so I have that on Bounce and on Squish. And Squish is my Corriedale nylon sock base that has been very, very popular. Everybody seems to like that, and that's a nice hard wearing one. So there are those. Then I was kind of trying to be spring minded as well. So I did 6 more weeks, which was one of the colorways that I did for the 6 Stripe Sock Club last year. This was the springish one, obviously, and it's 6 stripes. I've got it on Bedazzled, which you're not seeing the sparkle too much there. This light blows everything out. There we go. Bedazzled, and on Heavenly. So there will be 2 skeins of each of those. And another one that is very, very springy oriented is Cloudy with a Chance of Cherry Blossoms, which is a magenta and light pink and silver gray self-striping. Just 3 stripes, but they're really pretty colors. And if you like pinks and magentas, this is an awesome colorway. And it's that time of year, the cherry blossom everything. So there will be, oh, that's 2 skeins on Bounce and 2 skeins on Bedazzled of those. And then, oh, I also dyed up And I think I just dyed this up because I accidentally pulled this set out. I thought it was a different striping pattern than it turned out to be, so I had to use it since I had already soaked it in water. This is Magic Carpet. It's really not seasonal per se, but it's fun colors. 4 stripes with the magenta and the blue and the green, and there's a purple in there. It's a really fun color. So there will be 2 skeins of that, and those are on Bedazzled. And then I dyed up 3 of my colorways that were Minis of the Month striping colorways. I did Vintage Books. I've got 2 on Bounce and 2 on Bedazzled for Vintage Books. I've got Bring Me Orchids, which I believe was the February colorway. I've got 2 on Bounce and 2 on Squish. And then the most recent one, which I actually, I have to undo them because I have them in tissue paper. I wrapped them in tissue to send them out, but I had extras. This was the very last one that was for March, and they shipped out already, obviously, since it's no longer March. This was the March set. Grand Finale is the self-striping, and Bright Night Sky Blue is the semi-solid. I have 4 extra sets of these that'll be up in the shop this week of the minis, but then I also did full skeins of the self-striping of the Grand Finale colorway, and 2 of them are on Bounce, 2 of them are on Bedazzled. So you've got all those great fireworksy colors in there, pink and sort of a cinnamony red, purple, green, and yellow. And that green is that radioactive kind of green, that toxic green color. I love that color. Anyway, so those are the last self-striping that'll be in the shop. Continuing with the tropical theme, I put together another mini set. You guys have really been liking the mini sets that I've been putting together. So I'm continuing that theme. And this is a tropical mini set. I've got those same 3 colors. I'm in love with this color combination. I just can't say that enough. So we've got the sapphire blue, aqua shock blue, lime green, and then we've got chartreuse, and we've got a light raspberry. And this is just a really great combination. They just make me think of the tropics, just light, summery colors. So there will be 4 of these sets in the shop. This is 5 100-gram skeins, so you're getting 500 yards altogether in those sets. There'll be 4 of those. Lastly, we've got sock blanks. I have been leading up to dyeing for the Sock Blank Club. I've been playing with new techniques, and so these are some of my experiments, so to speak, that I'm putting in the shop. So one of the techniques that I was playing with was physical resist, which is where basically think of tie dyeing. You know how like you tie things and then you dye them, and then when you open it up there's areas where the dye didn't get to because it was resisted because of the tying. Well, that's basically what this is. I'm not tying these, I'm doing it a different way, but this is how they're turning out, and I think they look really cool. So this is one of them that has sort of like a orangey, a reddish orange base, and then all of these kind of, they're almost like suns. Isn't that what they sort of look like, sun motifs? But that's from the resist. So you'll have areas that are sort of white, mostly white, in there with all those other colors. I just think it's so cool. I'm having so much fun playing with these sock blanks. So this is a happenstance sock blank with sparkle, this particular one. And then the other one that I played with resist is one without sparkle. This one ended up having a lot more white in it in certain areas, but because, in the same row it's got colors too, it's not going to knit up just plain white. And then you've got these areas where there's full color, so I can't wait to see how these knit up. And these almost sort of look like spiders. I don't know. It was just it was so much fun, and there's no way to really know exactly how they're going to turn out when you're doing them. That's the fun of it. I mean, it's the fun of it for me, and then there's the fun of knitting it because you don't know how it's going to turn out either. I mean, I have a general idea of how this is going to work, but there's no way to totally predict what you're going to get. It's awesome. I love that. I mean, unless you're somebody who, like, that kind of thing makes you nervous, then that might not be for you, but if you like that kind of stuff, these are fun. Okay, then there was another one that I did using a technique that I'm not even sure if it has an official name or not. I'm calling it kind of a stratified dyeing, where I'm dyeing separate colors and overlapping them, and then you get these strata. Like, it's almost like when you're digging in the ground and you get the different colors. So these, basically, if you fold this in half, you have the same colors. So it's a mirrored sock blank in that way. And then I added speckles down the one end. So as you knit it, you'll have speckles knitting in to your garment, your sock, or your whatever. So this one has this progression of colors, and that's a without sparkle blank. And this one is the same technique with sparkles. So, and again, these are both mirrored, so you could get two sort of matchy socks out of these, even though they won't be identical. And then I have two other blanks here that really are not a specific technique other than I'm calling it, I have extra dye that I have to use up, so I'm going to throw it on sock blanks. So there's this one, which is just, you know, lots of color. So this one is no sparkle, and this one has sparkle in it. And it was basically a way to use up my extra dye and give you a colorful sock blank, if you would like it. Okay, that is everything that I have at this moment in time. I think that's everything that's going to be in the update tomorrow. The update next week, though, I will give you a heads up. The one on Saturday, April 16th, is going to be a lot of my favorite, not my favorite, your favorite colorways. Think Nyan Cat, think Star Trek-y, think Seven Deadly Sins, think at least one of the pie colorways, think Soft Kitty, and probably some more. I haven't decided on all of the ones I'm going to do, but it's going to be favorites, just because they're ones that I get requests for perpetually. Some of them are new favorites, like Seven Deadly Sins. Obviously, that's a newer colorway, but Soft Kitty's been around for a long time, and yet I still get requests for Soft Kitty. I used to get tons of requests for TARDIS, too. That has kind of died off. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure if people aren't watching Doctor Who as much, or if maybe just everybody who's wanted TARDIS has managed to get it. If you're interested in me dyeing up TARDIS for the next update, mention it in the thread, in the episode thread, and I'll try to get that one in. You know, I'm game to do whatever I can do. I just have to try to get them done. But anyway, that's going to be the next update. Not tomorrow's, but Saturday, April 16th. That will be the favorites update. I am planning to leave my shop open while I'm on vacation, and I will add a note to the top of the shop page just letting people know if you buy anything in that time period, it won't ship out until I return. But I figure I'll leave it open, and there's no reason not to. Anyway, that's everything. Oh, no, one other thing. Maryland Sheep and Wool is coming up. I should have mentioned this in the regular part of the podcast. I don't know why I didn't. I don't know why I have it written under shop news, because I'm not vending at Maryland. I will be there like for the podcaster meetup that I'm assuming is taking place, because I will be there on Saturday, but that's May 7th and 8th. And I will be there on the 7th. I think it's May 7th. Yeah. Yes? No. Maybe I have those dates wrong. May, yeah, 7th and 8th. So I will be there that Saturday. If you're going to be there, I hope I see you. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that. I have to remember to move that up to the normal part of the podcast, or the regular part of the podcast. I'm not sure any part of the podcast is completely normal. But anyway, this is really getting to be a long episode too. I'm sorry. But this is what happens when I take a week off. So, alrighty. Again, shop up tomorrow, the 8th, at 4 p.m. Eastern. And otherwise, I will see you next week. Bye.